What's up, guys? Welcome back again to my channel. So right now, we're going to make a new video on this game, which is the Dragonest 2 Evolution. So welcome back to my channels. So thank you for all my subscribers and for all the support that you have given me. This was actually I really appreciate it, guys. I love you so much, guys. So I have here. There's a request here with regarding of the final damage and critical. So most of the players actually doesn't even know about the final damage and criticals. Okay. Okay. So I have a question for you guys. Have you guys seen a character with final damage reduction? Okay. Let's start with the final damage and the criticals. Okay, so I'm gonna show you here. Let me adjust. I actually just got home. I never done my activities on the guilds. I'm sorry for my guild mates. I was busy driving earlier. Okay, so here's the thing. My question is: have you guys seen a character, or every player with final damage, resistance or reduction? Do you guys see a final damage resistance? Okay, so let me check here. There's a comment here. It was actually, oh, it's a new comment from Cobrador Balayang. It's 7 minutes ago. So he was asking about the final damage and criticals because he was so confused. What kind of build he was going to, or he was making on his character. So let me explain to you guys the difference between final damage and the criticals. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna show you. If you can actually see my build here, it's not yet complete. I'm using power. Here's the sign, the punch. It's actually on the scale. I'm not using intelligence. I'm using power. Here, let's say for example, I'm a dark. You can actually, it will benefit dark elements. It will benefit your skills. It will additional skills and damage reduction granted during skill action. And I'm using the first one, which is the, as you can see here, the close hand. It's the power, and the next is the agility, and next is power. Of course, more criticals, more damage, agility, more critical damage, and then intelligence, more skill damage, and additional final damage actually. But intelligence will work on skills. So let's say, for example, you're a sorcerer, you're a wizard, you're a healer. Definitely, intelligence is the best, and it's gonna be fit for skills users, especially for healers and wizards users. That's going to be the most irrelevant stat that you want to build, the intelligence. So technically I'm using power. Why I'm not using intelligence? Because it will boost my final damage. So I'm going to explain to you guys. No, okay. Final damage, it is actually has a linear growth until the percentage of final damage. So where it becomes polynomial until 100%. So that means the final damage has a steady and constant growth until a certain point. Okay. So here's the thing. Final damage has actually two formulas. Let's say, for example, your final damage percentage is 31%. Then it is actually determined by the following formula that grants the highest value up until 100%. So and routed down to the lower percentage. So for the players with final damage and the max final damage, let's say for example, multiply by 31.3%. So having a certain percentage of final damage, it increases all damage dealt by that percentage. Okay, so final damage is calculated by enemy level. Okay, listen carefully. Final damage is calculated by enemy level. Okay, your level has no relation to the damage equation. So skill damage crest. So that's why I said earlier. Final damage. It will boost your all damage abilities, including skill. So that means your damage overall is actually less than 20% damage you would expect. In other words, diminishing returns. Okay. So example, you have 50% final damage plus 20% damage crest. So it is actually equal to your 170% damage overall because you already have 50% and then the 20% final damage. So you have 170% overall damage. Okay. And that damage for the final damage is usable only in mobs or monsters. Okay? So final damage building generally means sacrificing rogue stats and equipment slots and clinging to set bonuses to achieve the percentage damage increase desired. Okay? So when you reach 100% means double damage. Okay? So that means you already have a double damage. Okay, so if you ask me how much final damage is required to have the desired damage increase here, so final damage versus criticals, final damage versus criticals. All right. So that's the question for my subscriber of Cobrador Ballooning. It is actually on my theory, and most of the time when I was playing MMORPG, I'm looking for the final damage resistance, final damage reduction. There is no final damage reduction because it is actually applies only on monsters on or mobs. So technically, it doesn't help you when it comes to team fight or a personal battle. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so final damage is based on the percent increase by said value given in a previous guide, and a critical based on agility, and the damage of criticals are based on, let's say for example, you have a lot of criticals, you have a high percentage of critical and based percentage on agility, and then of course the damage of criticals are based on your intelligence and strength. Okay, so it is actually based on your intelligence and your strength on the dragoness is your power. Okay, so critical chance is capped at 89%. I don't know how much percentage will be capped here on the dragoness 2 evolution, but on the other MMORPG it is actually 89%, and the final damage is capped at 100%. Okay, so that's the cap of the final damage. It is actually until you reach 100%. So for actually critical is the way to go as it does double damage more if you have increased critical damage plates or tails. And of course, as you can see here, there's an arch here, so that's gonna be more helpful because critical buffs are also given by archer party buff, which covers however or but much you're missing. However, criticals can be resisted by enemy mobs. Okay, mobs or bosses have innate critical resistance and elemental resistance to counteract the element and create based classes from becoming way too overpowered. Okay, so final damage on the other hand is not limited. There is no final damage resist on any mob, which means that the bonus given from final damage can never be negated. So that means if you have a max percentage of final damage, that damage cannot be negated because there is no final damage resistance on any kind of enemies, player, mobs. You cannot see final damage resistance or final damage reduction. Whenever it is applied to the game, criticals are nowhere near a guaranteed times 2 multiplier on your damage. Okay? And with FD or final damage, you can actually potentially have a guaranteed double multiplier. So it's guaranteed times 2 or more on some classes on damage. Okay? So when a crit is resisted, you deal no more damage, just like this one. As you can see on the attributes, there's a critical hit resistance and critical damage resistance. Okay, so when a crit is resisted, you deal normal damage. All right, and the chance for a crit will vary from enemy to enemy, but the basic formula for a critical hit is your critical chance multiplied by your enemy. One enemy critical resistance. Okay, so let's take the example where someone is crit capped at 89%. So let's also say that the enemy has enough critical resistance that they resist 32% of critical hits. So your actual chance at critical hit would be 89, all right, multiplied by one player minus that 32% of critical resistance. So your damage will be a total of 60% critical only, okay? So meaning your expected or average damage if we include criticals is 160%. So that's going to be an additional of your overall damage, okay? So meaning it's not a times 2 multiplier. So technically, if your build is pure final damage and you don't have critical hit or critical damage and you're going to um, make a battle fight 1v1 with same power, same level, of course, you already know that there's an advantage between your build and the build of the enemy. Because if the enemy has high critical hit and critical damage, of course, and you are building final damage, well, it is actually depends on the damage resistance that you already build on your character. If you have high defense, you can actually beat that character. Yes, of course. You can beat the characters even if you are only using final damage. Of course, you have a high tenacity. But of course, in terms of damage, that player will make more damage than you because his build is better than your build because your build is for dungeons and for monsters only. Okay? But if you have high intelligence or high power, that's why I said earlier, you can boost your damage using your skills. Okay? All right, so let's proceed. Meaning for the criticals, it's not a times 2 multiplier, but a 1.6 multiplier for the total of actual chance at critical hit on the 89% versus the 32% of the critical resistance. And not even without the critical resistance, the critical damage multiplier averages out to 1.89. All right? So not actually times 2 assuming critical damage is only 200%. It isn't, but it's usually pretty close. So in that case, of 2.1 or 200 or 200 10% of critical damage, it is 1.979 multiplier. So it's gonna be multiply by 1.979% multiplier on average without critical resistance. Okay, so final damage is the best stat to get. Okay, as you can see, you can actually get final damage here on this game. This is the best stat to get. Okay, but not the best bang for your back. Okay, you guys get it? You are better off stacking critical chance or critical damage as it is much cheaper. Alright? So technically, during endgame, or critical hit and critical damage is the best. Alright? But when it comes to dungeons, of course, if your teammate has a huge amount of final damage, of course, that guy can give more damage on mobs or bosses. Okay, because final damage is technically a guaranteed multiplier. Even without criticals, final damage is will be added on your overall actual damage including skills. Alrighty. And by the way, so I hope you understand, I'm sorry. I hope you understand, guys. So this is actually the end of my video today. I hope you understand between final damage and critical damage. For more information, you can actually click the comment down below. You can add your theory about critical hit, critical damage, or final damage. All right. So I hope you guys understand. I'm using English because most of my subscribers are from the other countries, so technically they will understand what I'm talking about here on my content. Okay. So do not forget to hit the like button, comment your theory and additional information. So it will be or it would be a lot more helpful for me and for my subscribers and viewers. Okay, so they can definitely understand what is the difference between this attributes. All right. Goodbye, guys. Don't forget to subscribe my channel and hit the notification bell. Bye bye.
Yeah.